Good evening, everybody. This is Dr. Mark Waller. Welcome to Mastering Thought, our live stream on Thursday night at 6:15. And our normal co-host, Vanessa Marino, who is the hostess with the mostest, could not be with us tonight. And so I've asked a special guest to come along. And before I introduce her, I want to kind of set this up a little bit. So those of you who've been following the channel know that one of the main purposes behind the driving force behind what we're doing is to help people have the awakening experience. And the awakening experience can be defined as a disidentification from the voice in your head. So I've been in this business, being a marriage family therapist for 26 years. And along the way, I met this incredible woman named Eloina Mack, and she is a member of our Thought Masters online community, and she is just a really special person and a special friend of mine who went through this process. Gosh, Eloina, how many years ago did you go through this?
I want to say that it started in 2018. 2018. I was looking at some notes, so it's 2018 late.
Okay, cool. And so Eloina had the awakening experience that we want everybody who listens to our channel to have. And so I want to, and she's got some questions she wants to ask. Good evening, Jet. Welcome to join us. Appreciate you coming along. I'll pop that up there. And so what I'd like to ask you first is, can you describe the process? I mean, you met me, I told you about, what to do to wake up, and what was the process like for you to go through that?
I don't know if it's valid to say, but I would say so. I mean, I did find it pretty easy. Of course, at first it seemed like maybe, okay, this thought watching, like there's got to be so much to it. Once you get the thought and you got to look into it, but you explained it. It's really as simple as being aware of a thought that you're having. And once you're aware of that thought, it goes away. And I said, is it really that simple? And so, I mean, and it really was that simple because it was like a homework. I dove in. The moment that you tell me that something is going to help me, I'm going to dive in and I'm going to try it. And so I was invested in my personal growth. And so the moment that I started doing the exercise, oh, it's time. Oh, my teeth, I got to brush. Oh, thinking about toothpaste, whatever it was. And I would catch it and I was like, wow, and then there's another thought, I'm really impressed with this. But it really took me I think giving it 3 weeks is a long time because I feel that within 2 weeks I had completely grasped it and I was
Okay.
aware of my thoughts. And so it was fairly quick that I caught on.
Yeah. So when you think about people who go to therapy, when you say 2 weeks, I mean, didn't you mean 2 years?
Yes, exactly. And it's funny that you say that because I used to go to therapy, and not to say that it's not, I guess for some people it's good when you're not awake and you want to lay there or sit there and just really, vomit all over somebody, because you're talking about
Right.
how miserable you are and such. And the fact that this was such a quick result and such
Uh-huh.
a quick awareness, it was incredible. And what a difference. Yeah, 2 weeks.
So, if I could, I just want to divert a little bit and I want to explain to people who are listening what this exercise is. So, let me just go through it. So, if you're listening to this, just participate with us now. Just clear your mind and wait for the next random thought, just ordinary thought. It's very important that it's just an ordinary thought because we don't want to struggle with fight or flight. If you're experiencing an emotion, that means fight or flight has kicked in, and we don't need that complication when we do this simple exercise. So, what is an ordinary thought? Oh, I have to trim my hair on Saturday. I wonder what we're having for dinner. Just random thought. What you will find is if you take a step back and just observe the fact that you're thinking, the instant you notice that a thought is in your head, which is the voice in your head that sounds like you talking, the instant you notice that, it goes away. Okay, now what happens is if you repeat that, eventually you realize that you're not the thinker, you're the observer. And this disidentification takes place, and you suddenly realize that you're not the voice in your head, and then you go free. Now, for you, Eloina, was it an instant thing? Did it happen like that, or was it over the course of a day or two?
What do you mean? Did what? Did
The
it
awake
happen like that?
when you finally disidentified and realized that voice wasn't you, was it instant or
Oh,
did it happen over a few days?
no, no, no. For me, it was instant. I was aware. I was immediately aware that this is, I am hearing these thoughts. I'm the one who is hearing them. They're not me. And so it was an immediate, it was immediate. It was instant.
Uh huh.
And like I said, I'd been doing the exercise and just catching, the thoughts, and that's what I thought that I was flowing with. But it was when I disconnected from that, that now I have the authority over those thoughts. I'm taking those thoughts captive, and that they're immediately going away the moment that
Right.
I'm aware of it. And yeah,
Right.
it was an immediate change. The next day I just knew it. I was aware of it, and it was a change.
I had Jet's comment up here. She says that's true. I practiced watching my thoughts, and I was just there thinking it probably is as easy as this, but it feels weird. Exactly. Jet's
Hmm.
exactly right. Didn't it feel weird in the beginning when you were doing the practice that you just noticed a thought and it went away? And how was that weird?
And I mean, because of the fact that you're expecting more, because you're,
Right.
initially, and I do remember I was thinking, oh, I have to analyze these thoughts. I have to, no, none of that, and that was the should I say disconnection, from the voice, from who I knew I was not. That was the immediate awareness that, hold on a minute, I don't have to do any of that. I don't have to dissect it. I don't have to see what's behind it. Because they're really just simple day-to-day thoughts, and now I am aware, now I'm awake, to
Yes.
that. And so it really was that
So what you're saying
great.
is so true because one of the things that people stumble with is they want to analyze their thoughts and they want to analyze this process. And as soon as they allow this to be as simple as I teach it, the awakening happens almost immediately.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know. So anyway, now let me back you up a little bit because prior to that, because I think I'm remembering our relationship. Weren't you involved in the Lion and Unicorn, the model I teach about relationships? Did that
Oh,
come first or second?
the lion and the unicorn came first.
Okay.
The lion and the unicorn, just the model, the idea of the model. But I want to say it was happening at the same time because it went hand in hand. It just seems like once I caught on, to the exercise and saw what was happening with the model and the lion and the unicorn, it just all changed and shifted. I mean, I was free. I want to say I was set free, and my life changed completely in a matter of just those 3 weeks.
So let me ask you this. When you woke up, you knew the Lion and Unicorn model. Was there any doubt in your mind what was going on in your relationship at that point? Could you see it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, now I know, I started detaching from that idea that I was being rejected and create, because that was my idea. I was fight. I was not flight. I was fight. And I had that idea, poor me. I was a victim, I was rejected. And so once I woke up, I realized that none of that is so. And that is not my problem. I am not a victim. I'm a victor, and I started changing. I mean, even my home. I remember my home. I used to be like, oh, who's going to do the dishes? Nobody helps me with the dishes, little things like that, So my house would be in disarray. And once I realized that those things that those ideas that I'd created in my mind, and, that constant voice, because I was addicted to thought, and
Uh huh.
those voices, that voice that was telling me, like, oh, you don't have help. Oh, you this. Oh, you're rejected, is what I realized. That was my main issue. My house was sparkly clean. I mean, everything around me changed, and nothing,
Right.
it was really hard to get me. You couldn't put me back in that mindset.
What you're saying reminds me of a story. There's a very famous spiritual teacher named Katie Davis, and I won't go into who she is and all that, but it's very interesting. Somebody asked her once, and I know you want to talk about this, did she have a religion before she experienced an awakening? And she said, yes, my religion is you kids have to pick up these socks. And what happened, exactly that smart point you made, what happened is when she started to pick up the kids' socks, they looked around and realized, wait a minute, that's our job, and they started to doing it without being asked.
Yeah. Yes, it's much better, when you're doing it, it doesn't matter. You're not feeling sorry for yourself. You just, want it done.
Right,
The reason it's not happening is not personal. And it just, once I realized that things were not personal, life was up and running. And once you make that change, this is something that I saw very quickly. Once I started making changes, once I was aware, once I was not nagging and, what was me, the household started changing. There was
right,
harmony,
right.
and so where people think that, well, you got to meet me halfway or you have to, I'm going to do my part and you do yours. Honestly, none of that even matters anymore because when one changes, it changes the whole dynamic.
Let me just bring up the lion and unicorn here real quick. You can see that obviously that Eloina is a lion because she felt rejected like nobody cares. And when she felt that way, I'm guessing you would get angry. Is that right?
Oh, yes.
And when you got angry, then your partner would immediately feel anxious. Oops, sorry, wrong, wrong. I'm groping here. There we go.
Oh,
Except
you better fix my name there.
I know it isn't it. I'm going to do this. Hold on, I got it somewhere. There you are. Sorry.
Ta-da.
So when the lion gets angry, the unicorn thinks, "Oh no, here we go again." They want to avoid the conflict, and the avoidance looks like rejection, and it just goes around and around like that.
Around and around.
Yeah. So anyway, is there anything more you want to share about your awakening, in
Well,
that would be interesting?
I mean, there's so much, and it's how you mentioned about this gal, that her religion used to be about the socks, and she now has a spiritual life, is what I'm hearing. And one of the things when I started, this work, and when I awakened, I was really just tapping into a relationship with God, if you will say. And so something that I noticed is, so I was just starting to get into like the Bible and such. And so my awakening was really going hand in hand with the things that I was learning, and just assertively. But there were things, like that biblical things, where in the Bible it talks about taking your thoughts captive. And I was like, oh my goodness, thought watching.
Right.
And yeah, taking your thoughts captive and the peace of God that surpasses all understanding will guard your
Right.
heart and mind. Like,
Right.
whoa, I was genuinely living peacefully. And there's something that says, I count it as joy, because we go through trials. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're awake and when you're aware, and knowing that the people around you are your teachers, and not your problem, you could count your trials as joy because you're learning. They're teaching you something about yourself, and there's the other one that says, do not conform to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind.
That's
All of those,
that's Romans.
yeah,
So Paul, yeah,
yes,
Paul
yes.
says those Paul's now this is very poorly translated, but Paul says those who are spiritually minded mind the things of the spirit. Now spirit means essence. So what he's saying is those people who are present mind the present moment. Then he says those who are spiritually minded mind the things of the spirit. Those who are fleshly minded mind the things of this world. The term flesh means drama.
Mhm.
And so if you're still thought identified, then you're going to be in the drama all the time. So
Mhm.
if you really get into Paul's writing, you realize Paul was awakened and he's talking about the awakening, but it's kind of been manipulated over the centuries, and we're not quite getting the straight story. If you're listening to this live and you want to join the conversation, please type a question or comment in the comments section. It'll pop up. I'll put it up on the screen, and we'll answer your questions or address your point. Anyway, would I know you can kind of do an advertisement here for doing the thought watching exercise, but what would you say to people who are new to this, who want to give this a try?
It is really, really so simple. I mean, you come in, you give it a try because like he just mentioned, we're in the flesh, so that means that, we like the drama and we bring a lot of emotions into relationships. I feel
Right.
for the people that, I have had to never had to endure all of the things that I brought into relationships when I was not awake. But it's really, really worth it. I mean, it's really as simple as it sounds, and it is life changing. Something so simple is absolutely life changing. And I tell Mark, you have broken the code. This is something
Yeah.
that if so many people tried it, I mean, the work dynamic would change. I implement it everywhere that I'm at. I'm a program supervisor and I oversee 13 people. And when we have our huddles, I'm teaching them about these things, about not taking things personal, about being aware of
Hmm.
their thoughts and how the others are their teachers. But these are all the things that come once you awaken, once you just simply start catching your thoughts and being aware that that voice in your head, that those thoughts are just not real, that it's not, it's perception, but you could take it captive, take those thoughts captive.
You mentioned something there I want to follow up on. You were aware of the lion and unicorn model. You had your awakening, and then at that point, were you able to see how the way you managed relationships was related to the way you were raised as a child?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I had to. I take things back. So it's that little girl, I always want to relate to that little
Hmm.
girl. But anytime, once I started awakening and practicing, being aware of the thought watching or the emotion would come in that maybe I'm feeling rejected. Hold on a minute. Stop. What's going on here? Oh, that little girl is feeling rejected. And I would relate it to a parent or to something that was going on in my
Right.
life. And now I've identified so many things that had to do with my childhood. I cannot say that I connect to any of the trauma. All it has done is taught me um, of the emotions that I've had as an adult and to detach from them and know that they're not real, that I am not rejected, that I am, a victor, like I said, that I am set free, and that
Uh-huh.
I'm a growth in progress. Yeah.
So, what I'm picking up in what you said is that you didn't have to go back and relive the trauma, but you could see how it was interfering on a moment by moment basis.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And before, there was a point in my life where I thought, oh, I need to identify with my trauma. Hold on a minute. I did go through some rough things in my life. And so for some reason, it was things that I'd heard and that I was being exposed to. And but I thought that, like, oh, maybe I have been affected. And no, absolutely not. You don't have to. They're teaching moments, is what I see today. And and they're just here for my growth.
I've been a marriage family therapist for 26 years, and it's very popular in my profession, the belief that you have to relive this stuff and re-experience the feelings. And what I've discovered is just what you described, is that all you really need to do is connect the dots in the moment it's happening. So if I'm interacting with my wife, for instance, and I start feeling rejected, I immediately am able to see that that's about my mother. I can see it instantly. And what it does, it just releases me from the pattern.
Yes.
It's over in that moment because I can see it and I know what it's related to. And my adult brain knows better. And so I go with that instead of letting the child brain, take me back into some, emotional pattern I learned as a child.
Yes, and it's in that moment. It's in that moment. My husband and I, we were working together, where so we were calling it the monkey brain, and
Yes.
so it's like, oh, the monkey brain is in, and we've gotten so comfortable with the work and the relationship and our communication that we were able to identify the monkey brain. Oh, what's going on there? You're not being attacked, or you're not being rejected. And it did also help me realize that I could be a little too much. I could be a little too much for somebody like a unicorn,
Right.
who wants to detach and wants to, run away. And so that helped me across the board in the relationship.
So, what people need to understand about unicorns, which is the opposite type, is you've got magnificent energy, Eloina, but the energy itself is a threat to unicorns.
Right.
Not even negative energy, just energy, period.
I'll say, yeah, definitely. But it's, once you start the awareness, once you're awake and you're self-aware, now you're realizing things about yourself. Now you're not getting, sensitive. Oh, I'm expected to change this. Like, no, you want to bring something to the table. You want to do better, not just to be aware, but also, be conscious of the other person.
Yeah. Uh, let's um, let's see. Jed has just made a comment. Let me bring it up. Thoughts are part of reality, so they're thoughts that are me talking to me. No, those are. I'm sorry. I'm not quite sure I'm understanding, but yes, thoughts are you talking to you. That's exactly right. Let me bring that back up. Okay, I send out the invitations. Now I need to plan the meal. I need to go to Costco. See, this is very important what she's pointing out here, because when you say I need to go to Costco, she's clarifying here. Let's see. Okay, you don't need to clarify. There are no categories of thoughts. They're all one. The voice in your head that sounds like you talking to you is the one that's beating you up and telling you're having a bad day, but it's also the one that says I need to go to Costco. It's all the same thing. So you don't have to parse this, you don't have to analyze it. The voice in your head that sounds like you talking to you is not you, it's only a thought, and it doesn't matter what it's saying. Now, the other question I get a lot is, well, what about the good thoughts? And, the way I explain that is, if you had mistaken yourself to be your shirt, would it matter whether it was black or white? Well, it wouldn't matter,
Exactly.
right? You're not a shirt. And so the point is, it's not to have good thoughts or versus bad thoughts. The point is to disidentify from all thoughts, because you are not a thought. That's not who you are. And so the process of disidentification from that thought sets you free from all thoughts, because you don't need an interpreter to experience reality. So Jet raises a very good point. I love this question, because the thought, my life is miserable, I'm going to die, is the same voice that's saying I need to go to Costco. Jet, you might
Same
comment if
voice.
that clarified that. Go ahead, Eloina. Expand on that.
That was, yeah, no, that was something I was well aware of since I started the exercise. When I started the thought watching, I was aware that any thought, was it good, was it bad, it was all the same. It was the
Right.
same category. It was just one category. Now, my goal, I remember, was okay. At first, I was like, okay, got to be very attentive, got to be on high alert, because I tended to, there was conflict. There was conflict, in the household, and so I was the type that I was ready to defend myself, or ready to get into a confrontation, ready to be defensive, whatever it was. And so I wanted to be aware of my thoughts before, I was in a heated moment.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, and so that wasn't. And I want to say, maybe when I was, I probably like a week after, because I remember the moment where I got caught up. I got caught up in with
Hmm.
words, and now there's no thought watching once you're caught up. You can't do the exercise when you're caught up in a bad moment and having an exchange of words, having an argument. And so, but being aware of it, being aware, oh, okay, that happened, and let's start again. And so it was part of the growth,
Uh-huh.
and it's part of the experience, definitely.
Um, Listening to you, now at some point, I don't know if you want to share about this or not, you kind of slipped out of this and back into the chaos.
Yes.
And how and how did that? Because I get this question all the time. First of all, let me preface this by saying when you wake up, you know that you know. It's unmistakable. You can't unforget. You can't forget what you've learned. You know it. Okay, but there are times when we're tempted to slip back into the old ways. Did that happen to you, and what happened?
Man, it was some talk about. I say fell asleep. I fell asleep, and that was one of the things I wanted to ask you about. Is what do you say to somebody who falls asleep? Because I fell asleep. Once I was awake, it was just part of my life. It was part of my language, the energy that I had. There was such a peace about me. Um, I was humbled. I felt like I carried myself more gracefully. I was very assertive, very bold in the way that I say things to people and such, but my motives were correct. Everything across the board, I said, goodness, I couldn't believe that everything across the board was just smoothing out. And what I thought, my relationship with God, but I got caught up. I got caught up in religion and legalism. And so I said, I've got everything that I need. And I started falling into that needing something. I don't know what it was that I was looking for, but just following the rules, something that I've done in my life, even when I was younger, diving in and following the rules and people pleasing. Oh, that was one of my things, people pleasing.
So my
And
my
uh-huh.
interpretation of what happened to you was there was an unmet need still that you hadn't dealt with and uncovered, and in an unconscious effort to fill that need, it sucked you into circumstances that made you fall back asleep.
Wow, there you go. Yeah, that I couldn't have said it better myself. That's exactly it. And so I'm not going to say I wasn't aware, because it's like you can't not know that you've been awake, but I was avoiding things. I was avoiding the community. I was avoiding because it's like once you're awake and there's a new video or there's something that just kind of make it's like a maintenance,
Yeah.
just keeps you healthy and keeps you fed. And I was not eating. I was
Okay.
yeah, I'll say I was unhealthy, and so until everything
But
turned
but
into a
then
whirlwind again.
but then we had like one conversation and you were back.
Oh yes, yes. I mean, just quickly.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I need some help here. What's going on? And it was immediate, and I just needed to be able to walk through it, and I was back immediately back, and I could even look at pictures of myself then, and I was like, man, even you could even see it in my face. I was out to lunch, you know. I kid you not. I was out to lunch, and so and today I'm just like, man, I can breathe again. And it's even things at work, like when you awaken and you're aware of the people around you, you get along so much better, because this is something that you practice across the board. It's not just in a relationship.
Right.
The lion and the unicorn is a concept that I would use, at work, not taking things personal with the people around me, that mean, grouchy coworker, that,
Uh-huh.
people are who they are, and they were my teachers. They were my teachers, and none of it was personal. And I think because of that, I've done so well at work. I get to advance. I get to teach
Yeah.
others, and And I want everybody to have this. I want everybody to learn it. I'm always sending people to YouTube to watch these videos. And when I see people falling apart, and I'm like, there's a solution and it's permanent.
Yes.
There's hope.
You mentioned the word community, and in the context we're talking right now, I think it's really important to refer back to Thought Masters, the online community that you're a part of, because the
Yes.
reason that Christina and I formulated this community is exactly what you just articulated. We didn't want people to wake up and then fall back asleep because they didn't have a resource. Some of my clients, they come to therapy and they have this magnificent experience. It changes their lives. And 2 years later, it's all gone because they didn't have a resource. They're not talking to me every week anymore. So we created Thought Masters and filled it full of all kinds of, really tremendous resources to help people back on track. Plus, it's a community of people like yourself who've been through this process, who know what it's all about and can interact with other people. And
Yes.
let me just comment. I will put the link to the Thought Masters online community in the description of this video. But give me a day or two because YouTube processes these live streams very slowly, and it may be a day or two before I can get in and edit the description and put that information in. So be patient. If you have a question, we've got a few minutes left. Please put it in the comments. We want you to be part of this discussion, so don't be shy. I really appreciate Jet. She's made a couple really interesting points tonight and really moved the discussion along. Can you share
Thank you,
your
Jet.
experience on Thought Masters or anything you might want to say about that?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, oh, I love it. I'm a me and Jet, right? Yes, no, I absolutely love it. I mean, it's so wonderful when you can interact with other people that, should I say, speak the same language?
Yeah.
That are on the same page, and some people are just getting started, and you're able to help and pull them along. And some people, there's like there's different levels, but once people get it, and we speak the same language, it's just so good to have those conversations. Oh, and let me tell you something that I really love are the AI generated conversations of
Oh.
oh my goodness, those are so good, so valuable. I listen to them like when I'm at work. If I'm working on something
Mm-hmm.
at my desk, I'm listening to them, and it is just so wonderful. And I love watching the YouTube videos and then going and listening to the AI generated. I mean, it is so fulfilling, and it just really is the best way to, like I said, maintenance, to have that maintenance and continue to get fed. And it's just good to have the community. I feel like it's an incredible creation that you have here. And I love how we say, come soar with us, because that's how I feel. You will fly. What is it, with wings like eagles and such? And that's what we're doing is we're soaring.
So
And so
let
it's
me
wonderful.
explain a little more about what Eloine is referring to. What I do is when Christina and I record a video, I take it and I put it into an AI system that generates a conversation between two people, and I think they're about 12 to 15 minutes long that just highlight all the points that were discussed. So it's a condensed version of the video that we recorded done by AI. And boy, those two people sound like real people. I mean,
Wow.
it's
And
amazing.
yes, it is. It's amazing, and you just listen to it, and just like you said, it's yeah, it's condensed into all. I mean, all of the meat. It's there. There's no milk about it. It is
Right.
so good, so good.
And those are on Mastering Thought. If you go to Mastering Thought, I'm trying to remember what the titles are, but they're the shorter videos, and you can experiment and you can find them. We got a question here from Kuz Kuzi. What is your advice for a relationship hanging by a thread in which one partner has awakened and the other partner remains unconscious with anger? Okay, so let me just speculate here that the other partner is a lion. And if you study the lion unicorn model of relationships, you will realize that what that other partner wants is approval. They want the emotional connection. They want to feel special. They want to be cherished. And if you start actively giving them that, that will fill their cup and that will heal their heart and take away the anger, because the anger is a defense against the pain of rejection. And so if you can start seeing that clearly, you'll know exactly what to give them that they need, that they can't really ask for because they're speaking in anger and it's really unclear. So I would encourage you, feel free to reach out to me. You can find my email address. I'd be happy to help you and point you to some resources. But the more you understand the lion and unicorn, I wrote a book called The Dance of the Lion and Unicorn. You can read the book. It's an audio book as well. But if you understand that model, you will know exactly what your partner needs, and you'll be able to give it to them freely, and it will completely change the dynamic in the relationship. What do you? I know you've had experience with that, haven't you, Eloise?
Yes,
I
yes,
just
I'm
described
hearing
you.
it. Yes, and of course I was the lion, but being the lion, that's what I spoke about a little while ago, that I realized I'm a little too much, and so what do I want to do for my unicorn? Now observing and knowing what it is, that stresses him out or that causes that anxiety. And so I started giving him what he needed, and my motives were correct. It wasn't
Uh-huh.
that I was people pleasing, it was that I was bringing something better into the relationship. I started backing off. I started, understanding more, not taking things personal, not having that expectation of, oh, I need to be loved or I need to be this or that, because I was not being rejected. So it was so
Right.
much easier for me to give him what he needed and what it was that he dreaded, to back off some. So the dynamic completely changed. And because it was the same scenario, I was awakened and I saw the dynamic change. It was mind blowing.
And a relationship is a system. And when one person wakes up, if they truly wake up, then the whole system changes. And you stop responding, you stop accepting the invitation to do the dance of the lion and the unicorn, and everything starts to change. Kuzkui, do you have a follow-up question? Did I answer that well enough? Feel free to step right in. We've got probably about 7 or 8 more minutes if somebody wants to ask another question. Do you have another question on a totally different topic related to, uh, you know, the Thought Masters community, the Lion Unicorn, anything that's been on your mind you'd like to ask? Put you on the spot.
Well,
Sorry.
I know, no. I feel like we've been, talking about some things. Yeah, I was wondering about the spiritual, or religious approach, because, like I said, when I came in, I didn't have a solid relationship. I was searching
Uh
and
huh.
such. And so, what about when people come in? Let's say that I often hear people like at my church, oh, then, go find you a Christian therapist.
Uh
I
huh.
hear that a lot. And so, and I'm sending people to, I'm like, oh no, you have to jump on YouTube and listen to Mark Waller, and then maybe you could reach out to him, or, and anyway, and so you don't identify as a Christian therapist, right?
No.
So I mean, how do you go about that, like as far as a religious approach or?
I, people ask me if I'm religious, and I tell them no. Am I spiritual? Yeah, but probably not in the way they're thinking about. But let me answer it this way: Is God omnipresent? Isn't that one of the
Yes,
principles?
yes.
Okay. So what else is there? If God's omnipresent, there can't be anything else.
Oh,
I mean, he either is or he isn't,
okay.
right?
He is right. He is or he isn't. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
And so if he is, and it's not really a he, but if he is, then there is nothing but God, which means that And in Genesis, it says God created us in his image and likeness. Okay,
Mm.
so what is God attempting to do with us? See his image.
Oh,
We are a mirror for God. And as long as we have our own agenda working all the time to survive, we're not really a very good mirror. So we need to clean up our
wow.
act so God can experience himself in us.
Oh, I just thought of something. So you know how they say we're in a refining fire and he's refining us?
Uh-huh.
And so you know how they do like silver and they're
Yeah.
refining the silver. And
Yeah.
then once it's ready, it's because you could see yourself in it. Oh, that's what God is doing. He's got us through
That's
the
right.
refining fire. And then once he could see us through that silver, we're ready in his image. I love that. That's
Yeah.
really good.
Okay, let me go to Jet and then Kuskui here real quick. I feel stuck, but there are essential thoughts. No. For example, thoughts during a medical emergency would be, "There's bleeding. I need it." So let me. The last thing a doctor will tell you is they need to have thoughts during an emergency. That's when their training kicks in and they don't think about what they're doing. They know what to do. So let me use a sports analogy. If you're a golfer, the instant you start thinking, your golf game goes to heck. So life is about flow, sports is about flow, addressing an emergency is about flow. It's not about talking in your head through a process. That is an illusion that we've created over the years because we so heavily identified with the dialogue in our heads. And when you go through the awakening process with us, on the other side of it, you'll suddenly realize, yeah, all that thinking interferes with what's supposed to be happening. So that's a kind of a deep conversation. Yes, Jed is saying, ah, yes. Okay, let's go to Kuzkui. Thanks, Doc. I'm the unicorn, but I clearly need to keep working at this to tame the lion. So the very fact that you're saying tame the lion means you still have work to do. Actually, the fact that you use that word, tame the lion, means you're viewing the lion as a problem. And that's coming from your monkey brain telling you that, you need to tame the lion so you can feel at peace. So I'm telling
Basically,
you,
all of our problems are right here.
yeah, that's right. That's right. And the other thing that's interesting about what you said, you've said it twice now, Eloina, that when you're awake, you can see your motives. And
Yes.
so when somebody says they're taming the lion, what would their motive be?
I mean, definitely self-seeking. It's definitely self-seeking,
Yeah.
and as
So
simple as that.
so Kuzkui, I'm not saying this right. Kuzkuzi, I would ask the question, what does it say about you that you need to tame the lion, and let that take you to a deep place where you can find out what's being activated as a result of being with this angry person, because there's something there that will emerge that you'll see that's been there all along, and it's the reason why you attracted this person into your life. So, and feel free to reach out to me. I can give you resources, and I'll be happy to interact with you because we're here to help. This is what we're trying to do. Anything else in closing from anybody? I really appreciate the questions. These are, it's funny, isn't it? People ask just fascinating questions.
Excellent. Great questions.
They're
Definitely.
looking for answers. They're not stupid. You know.
And yes, and you're wonderful, even in this community and on YouTube. I mean, you're so quick to respond to all of us when we have any questions, and that's amazing because not everybody does that when they have a platform. So thank you for that.
Well, everybody, thanks for joining us. Once this gets posted, feel free to comment as you go back and listen to this again. And Eloina, thanks so much for
You're so
being our
welcome.
guest tonight. I want to bring you back in whatever
Sure.
whatever form we can, because you have a lot to say that's really right on point, and I really appreciate it. Oops, I just lost you. Oh, you're back again. Okay. Can you hear me, Eloina? We lost your signal and now you're back. I don't think you can hear me, can you? No, she can't hear me. All right, we're going to wrap this up. Thanks everybody for coming. It's really been a lot of fun, and we'll see you later. Join us next Thursday at 6:15. We'll have another one of these sessions. We'd really like to see you again. Bye-bye.